The online speaking mini lesson. Most conversation takes place in the past tense. People like to report on what they've done, comment on something they saw, or tell a story. Because it's such a frequently used function of speech, it's worth being good at it. Just like the photograph of description, the speaker must always bear in mind that the listener was not there at the time of the event. Thus, the listener must give enough detail of the original scene and the background to the event or happening so that the listener can imagine the context in which the event took place. Any narration of events starts with the background to the event, the reason for being somewhere, the regularity of previous such events, what was planned, etc. Following a backgrounding that gives the listener some idea of what things were like, the speaker should try to vividly recreate the scene at the time of the beginning of the event, the setting of the scene. And finally, a step-by-step narrative action can follow. The actual narration will not be covered here. Many of you will have practiced how to present a series of events in the past tense. But too often, the speaker fails to present a background, a snapshot for the listener of what things were like. For the listener, this may be just as interesting as the story itself. Now, to control all of this and give rich detail throughout is difficult. There are also some grammatical rules to make things more complex. Good storytelling is one way of using backgrounding, and how to do this is shown in the example box. Another very common method of backgrounding is to use the phrase used to. It is basically a daily routine in the past tense. I used to pick fruit in my garden every Sunday when I was young, and I used to go to church before and after that. Not only does this suggest that I don't do that now, but it gives you an impression of the young life of Mervyn. It may also be the background to the story of how I fell out of a tree one day. Simple past tense is also okay. There was a lot of wild fruit in the forest near my house. Or you can use the past perfect tense, like you can see in the example box. I had been a shy boy before I entered school. Whatever grammar you choose to use, any explanation of events needs a context, a sense of giving the listener a picture of what things were like. The listener wasn't there. Too often, the speaker just presents the listener a narration, and the listener needs to ask questions to get some idea of the background. Try to always think ahead and give the listener the background first. Presenting background like this should not be taken lightly. It's a hard task, and we'll practice it in the exercise lesson. But it can be very effective in generating a conversation.